Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I want to welcome everybody here. I know you're all excited about today's conversation, and I'm excited too. I get an opportunity to speak with a family for whom I have tremendous respect. A man who I look up to him a lot. You know, he's a wise man. He's a good man. He's an accomplished man, and he's a man with a story to tell, and his daughter is telling the story with him. And so everybody who loves this idea of family working together, put the word family in the chat, type that word in the chat as you come in. And hello, James and Terry and Brother Man and James G. Watkins and Ridley. I see you. Okay, let's get started. All right, so the guest for today is Larry Miller. Larry Miller is the chairman of the Jordan Brand. He has a long and distinguished career. He's also the author of the new book. Make sure I say it right. Jump, My Secret Journey from the Streets to the Boardroom. Did I say it right?
Yes, sir.
All right. And he's also here with his lovely daughter, Layla Lacey, and they are here to talk about the story. And when I say the story, I'm talking about a lot of twists and turns and something that I think will inspire everybody here and will allow you, hopefully, when you walk away, you'll have as much respect for this family as I do. So first off, I'd like to ask Layla and Larry, how are y'all doing today?
I'm very good. I'm doing very well. Thank you.
I'm doing great.
So I guess I'll start by asking you, Larry. So are you exhausted? I mean, you've been talking about this book in a lot of spaces and places. How you feeling?
It's been a little exhausting. I mean, and for me, I've always kind of tried to stay behind the camera or, out of the spotlight a little bit. And this has kind of thrust me into the spotlight, but it's been good. I mean, the response and the reaction for the most part has been really supportive and encouraging. And, it's been tough with all the interviews and stuff, but to me, I feel like if we're going to tell this story and we're going to, try to get it out and try to help as many people as possible with it, then, I need to get out and talk about it.
All right. Well, I love it. And I'll ask you, Layla. I'll tell you, I mentioned to y'all before we came on camera how inspired I am about father-daughter businesses. I just think that's they're doing anything business-wise with your child. It's bigger than making money or whatever. It's a meaningful kind of connection. It's a legacy. And it's impressive to see you and your father kind of doing this together. Tell me what this partnership has meant to you. I'm sure you're proud of Daddy. My God, he's running the Jordan brand, one of the biggest brands on the planet. I mean, and what you did with Jordan Brand was extraordinary. But there's also the kids in terms of sometimes children have successful parents and they're not happy and they don't want to work with their parent at all. But you actually wanted to do this project with your father. What's that been like for you?
It's been amazing. Just the whole journey from, us discussing it before we ever got anything down on paper, over, years and years of conversations and learning about each other and, just getting to spend that time and dig into, some good and some not so good areas sometimes, but definitely necessary conversations. And priceless is the word that I always come back to because I wouldn't trade it for anything. I'm just thankful.
Priceless and thankful. I love that. And so Larry, let's dig in, man. I knew you. Michelle Martin introduced us, and I was really impressed. And I remember telling Michelle, I said he's a cool brother. I met you and H and
yeah.
And
came out to Portland. We had lunch and hung out. Yep.
Yeah, that was great, man. And I remember, I'm gonna tell you the truth. I have kind of a blackness radar I use when I talk to people. Like, okay, am I talking to a Black man, who just happens to be in some certain position, or am I talking to a brother? Am I talking to somebody who really gets it and that I can connect to on some level, even if we don't see eye to eye on everything? Can I connect? And I really felt that I could connect. And I felt like you understood the world in a way that a lot of people don't. And then when I heard the rest of your story, I think a couple years later was when I heard the story about the time you spent in prison. And that's sort of the big reveal that you shared in this book. You kept that as a secret for a long time. what was that like, going all those years without people knowing about the darkness of your past?
Yeah, it was actually really, really challenging and really tough for a number of reasons. One, I was always concerned and worried that it might come out, that somebody would find out, and it would, it would jeopardize what I built, or take away everything that I had worked for up to that point. So that was always in the back of my mind, and always something that was concerning me. And I think because of that, I ended up having incredible nightmares and migraines, and it was eating me up, because again, I was totally concerned and totally anxious and nervous about this story coming out, and just doing everything I could to try to keep that from happening. And it was challenging. It was also challenging in that there were people that I worked with every day, people that I had great, strong relationships with, that didn't know this part of my life. And there were times that I was tempted to share or tempted to talk about it with people, and it was hard for me to be able to do that. So it was not easy keeping it in. And I think once once La and I started to talk about it, and I started to get some of the things out to her, that really kind of lifted a lot of the burden for me. The nightmares stopped, the migraines stopped, because I felt like I was, getting this out and sharing it. And since it's actually gone public, it's even been more of a challenge for me, because, it's something that I've tried to hide for the last 40 years. Now I'm sharing with the entire world. And so it's a little bit of an adjustment there for me, but it's also been really freeing in terms of just allowing me to take this burden of trying to hide this off, and just sharing who I am with the world.
So, Miss Lacey, let me ask you this question: how long have you known about your father's experience and what he went through?
I knew some of the story pretty much all my life. I have memories of going to visit him at Greaterford when I was very, very small. So I kind of always knew a part of the past, but over the course,
by the way, is a penitentiary in Pennsylvania.
Yes, Greaterford State Penitentiary. I recall going there as a small child, but I didn't know the details, and I didn't know the stories. And so when we started to work on it, and he started to share some of the details with me, it was eye-opening. I learned a lot about his struggles and the things that he had been through. And it was definitely, eye-opening, I guess, is the best word that I can use to describe, but in a good way, in a wonderful way, in a way that let me know who he was, and helped me to understand even more so how amazing it was what he was able to accomplish.
I'll tell you, Larry, I believe that the Black man has a special relationship with the criminal justice system, very toxic one, obviously. If you look at most of the studies, we're the most likely to be incarcerated. We get the longest sentences, all these other things. And my father went to prison. My biological father did. That's why he wasn't in my life. I was raised by a stepfather. And you talk about overcoming things. I remember my stepfather, who could have easily gone to prison at any time. He talks about overcoming a heroin addiction when he came back from Vietnam. And then I also had a younger brother that went to prison. My uncle, who was like my older brother, he was my number one mentor, person I love more than anybody. I remember him going to jail, and I remember how much I cried, how depressed I was in middle school because he wasn't there. And prison causes a lot of pain, and it creates a lot of trauma. I know that when my uncle went to prison, he came out, he was never the same. The next 30 years was like watching him just crumble and fall apart, until the day he died. And he died pretty young. What I admire about you, Larry, and I'd like to get your insights on this, maybe to talk about what that experience was like, is, you know, I think that if I look deep down, I think when I look at you, even when I look at you or MJ or just guys that were able to just overcome all the obstacles that Black men face, I have an admiration for that, because that's what I wish my uncle could have done. You know, my uncle couldn't do it. It broke him down. My father couldn't do it, broke him down. My stepdad did it. He grew into a strong man that I admire to this day. You did it. What can you tell us? So it's a two-part question, I guess. Tell us about what that felt like, to be locked away, to have people label you in a way that was clearly inappropriate. That was clearly, I mean, you were a kid when all this happened, right? But then also, what made the difference in terms of you being able to elevate out of that and to accomplish something that very few people can ever even attempt to do?
So Boyce, that is really, an interesting question. I think for me personally, I was in and out of jail from the time I was 13 years old up until 30. I was in and out, and the crazy thing about it is, you start out like 12, 13 years old, and you're back and forth, and it's the same people every time you go back. So you kind of grow up with the same people. You get out, you go back. I told people, there were folks that I was really close with, but I never saw them in the street. Whenever I went back to jail, they were there, because we were all caught up in this vicious cycle. And it's a really tough cycle to break out of. And I think, what did it for me was the fact that the last time I was incarcerated, they had a program there that was an educational release program. They had work release and education release, where you could qualify to live in these trailers outside the jail. So outside the jail wall, they had these trailers set up. You could live in those trailers and leave every day to go to school, and have to be back by 8 o'clock in the evening. And when I got there and found out about that program, I was like, well, hey, that's how I want to do my time. So the motivation for me wasn't so much to get an education. It was, hey, that's an easier way to do time. But once I actually got into it, and started to take the classes and talk to people who were managing the program, and just really start to think more and more about it, I started to believe that I really could change my life. And I think at the end of the day, that's what it really comes down to, is changing that perception of yourself to say, you know what, regardless of what I've been through, I can still make something out of my life. I can still, build a life here. And I think it's really hard to be able to do that, especially if there's nothing given to you to help you make that change. For me, it was the program that I got involved in education, whether it's educational or certain skills or whatever that can provide a person hope to say, you know what, okay, if I do this, then there's hope that I can change my life and that I can go out and, make a contribution. But if they don't give you anything, that is going to change your life, or that's going to provide an opportunity for you, then you go out and you do the same thing and you end up back in the same cycle. Or to the point of your uncle, you get out, but you don't see that you can do anything with your life. You feel like at that point, like, wow, I got a record. If I go to try to do something positive with my life, that's going to be there to stop me. And again, that's another reason that we did this, to try to change that perception so that people will be more willing to give opportunities to folks who've been previously incarcerated. So to me, it's about changing your perspective of who you are and how you view yourself and what you think you can accomplish. And again, that's not an easy thing to do. You have to have things that provide opportunities for you that make you believe you can change your life. And a lot of that's not happening now. Like the program that I talked about that I was involved in doesn't exist anymore. It went away in the mid early 90s. They did away with the program. And so if I was there today, or if I was getting out today or in there today, I couldn't do what I've done because the program that I took advantage of doesn't exist anymore. And that's one of the reasons that we did this, to try to focus on, states really either re-implementing or enhancing the programs that do exist, and re-implementing or establishing programs where they don't. Because, the majority of people in jail are going to get out at some point. The majority are going to be back on the street at some point. So why not try to do something while they're there to help them be contributing members when they do get back out? And again, to me, that's what this is about. And I would hope that we can establish, or at least make some change, so that people like your uncle don't go through what they went through, and do, if they do get caught up in the system and do get caught up, somehow pulled into something, that they do see that they have an opportunity to change once they are out.
Yeah, I think I agree with that, and I like that answer a lot. And I like what you're doing. And by the way, for those of you who just came in, I'm speaking with Larry Miller, the chairman of the Jordan Brand. It's the chairman, right? That's your current position, is that correct? Okay, and also his daughter. I want to say Layla Lacey. Did I pronounce Layla right, or
It's Lila.
Lila?
Yeah.
I thought
You can call me La.
Uh,
If it's easier, just call me. Everybody calls me La.
Lie. Okay. All right. So Lie. I want to ask Lie you a question, Lie. I remember, I'm still, I ain't gonna lie, I'm still mad that they took my uncle away from me when I was a kid. I was 12. I needed him, and at the same time, so I'm sitting in the space I'm in, and I see people having empathy for other people's children. For example, if you have things happening at the border, children being separated from their parents at the border, that's a bad issue, right? We address that, but I don't think anybody really talks about our kids. What happens when they get separated from their parents. And I remember lie that, when I was feeling my sadness, my depression, I would sit in class in the 7th grade, wasn't doing no work. I would just sit in there and I would write letters to my uncle in prison. That's all I would do, like the whole class, and I felt very alone, like nobody cared. Nobody could feel my pain. It distracted me. When I look back on that, I think about how painful that dysfunction was. And so I'd be curious to know, did you have any sort of feeling in terms of, not always having your father available the way you would have liked as a kid? What was that experience kind of like for you, if at all?
It was difficult. I do remember experiencing that loss and that need, missing that established relationship and seeing people who had it and wishing that I did. But unfortunately, I was not alone in that. There was so many other people around me who were kind of in the same situation with regard to having an incarcerated parent or family member or someone that they missed that was on the inside. And the sad, harsh reality of it is 1 in 3 Black men is going to be incarcerated at some point in his life in this country. And I get choked up when I say that, because I feel like that is such a national emergency that just goes unaddressed. So while it was hard for me as a child, there were so many of us going through similar situations. It was way more common than it should be, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's crazy that we're so used to it. I asked a young lady I mentor, I said, out of all the friends that you have, how many of them have a daddy at home? And she said, I think one of them does. And it was like out of 20 people, and it's like we're just used to it, right? And it goes back to even those studies where people conclude that Black people feel less pain than other people. I think even we accept the pain. It's just like, okay, it's just the way it is. But when I got older, I said, man, I think I need some therapy. And I think all of us, and Larry, when you were talking earlier about just that feeling of hiding that secret, like, carrying that weight around, the nightmares, stuff like that. I mean, and maybe I'm thinking in this way because my wife is a therapist. And so she's opened my eyes to things where it's like, no, that's dysfunction. Like, I think there's a scale. It's called the ACEs scale for the amount of trauma you experience as a kid. And I took the test and she said, oh, your score is super high. I said, wait, I had a pretty decent childhood. What are you talking about? No, a lot of us are high on that scale. And so that healing, just community-wide is important, family-wise, individually, of course. And so Larry, I want to ask you, so you are, I'd like to ask you a question that's a mix between what I just discussed in business, because I'd be remiss not to impress upon everybody listening just the extraordinary work you did with the Jordan brand. You didn't just go and join the company. You took the company 10 tiers higher, and which would impress the heck out of me. I still remember 1983 when everybody, it was the talk of the school when one kid got the first pair of Jordans, when they first came out. I can't think of too many other brands, athletes, or et cetera, that were super relevant in 83 and are as relevant today as they were back then. And maybe Apple might come to mind, something like that. But I'd be curious to know, as you're carrying this deep, heavy secret and dealing with that, you're also performing an extraordinary feat on the other side of that. Can you talk about that experience and the mindset you carried with you every day that allowed you to be able to do that?
Well, I've always been, Boyce, somebody that, whatever I decide to do or whatever I decide to get into, I'm like all in. And, even though I was dealing with all these other issues that nobody kind of knew about, I still felt an obligation and a responsibility to give my job 100% and to try to continue to move forward and move the company forward and move the business forward. And so, to me, that was just my mindset. It's like, okay, I got this stuff going on, but I'm not going to let that stop me from doing what I have to do. And that's always kind of been my approach. I was just sitting here thinking about something when we were talking earlier, and I debated whether I was going to say this, but I'm going to say it. I don't want people to think that I'm saying, hey, people shouldn't go to jail or we shouldn't lock people up. I don't want, to me, I should have gone to jail. I should have had a debt to pay for what I did, for what I committed. I'm not trying to say, and again, I think a lot of it is based on the conditions that we are in this country as Black people that kind of, lead us to do these things. So I don't want people to think that I'm saying we shouldn't have jails or that people shouldn't be locked up if they commit a crime. That I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying, though, is that the criminal justice system needs to be revamped, needs to be relooked at in terms of how we deal with that situation when people do commit a crime and go to jail. How do we deal with that? What do we do to help them, prepare them to come back to the street? Because like I said, the majority of people are going to come back. But I don't want people sitting out there thinking, well, is he saying, well, we should no. If someone commits a crime, they should pay that debt to society. Again, I think we're in situations in this country as Black people that lead us down that path a lot more than it should because of the condition that we're in as people. But and then, like I said, to me, the system needs to be changed in terms of how we deal with people or how we deal with when someone commits a crime or is accused of a crime. I just wanted to say that.
Well, yeah, I think that's an important point to make, and I agree. I think, we don't want everybody just running around the streets, and that point about rehabilitation and redemption. I think that's what it sounds to me like. That's what's you're being impressed upon us now to say,
Exactly.
look,
Exactly.
if these people are coming back home, send us home a better man than the man that went away. Like
Absolutely.
I know personally, I would have benefited tremendously if my uncle had come home a better man. He wasn't a better man. He was all messed up. You know,
I agree. I know for a fact I came home a better man than when I went in the last time. I know that for a fact, and I agree with you 100%. I think that should be the goal.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I in my view, you're not just a better man, you're a great man. And your daughter, I'm so proud of you, Lai, for standing with your father as a girl dad myself, a woman dad. I can say it makes me proud to see you supporting him in this process. This is what we're all about. This is Black excellence. Everybody is watching. So everybody type Black excellence in the chat, and also please give a digital thank you to our special guest, Larry Miller. The title of the book is Jump: My Secret Journey from the Streets to the Boardroom. This is Lila Lacey. Let me show their names on the screen, and also Larry Miller, the chairman of the Jordan Brand. And I want to say thank you all very much for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Boyce, I consider you someone that is not only a friend, but someone who does great work with our people and really trying to, lift people's intelligence level up. And I think that's something that, that to me, that's to use La's word, that's priceless. To be able to increase somebody's intelligence is really what you're doing and what you do on a day-to-day basis. And I have an incredible amount of respect for that and for you.
Well, that means so much to me, man, and I appreciate that compliment very much. And it's been an honor to talk to you, and I look forward to talking in the future. And so God bless both of you, and thank you all for watching. And we will talk to you all soon. Have a great day, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Take care, boys.